What is up, everyone? Today we are looking at a very special deck profile. As we all know, the Albaz Strike structure deck was officially released last week. I've been waiting months for this thing to come out. I've been playing Despia pretty much since the beginning, and I knew that the structure deck would take this archetype to the next level. So I'm here today to show you my deck profile. Let's go ahead and check it out and get right into it. Start with the main deck, and we'll start with the Despia engine first. Playing triple Luber, the Jester of Despia. This guy is your searcher. He adds any branded spell or trap from deck to hand. And then his secondary effect is super good. If a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, that means banished, destroyed, sent, etc. Then if this card is in your graveyard, target one effect monster your opponent controls, special summon this card, and if you do, negate the targeted monster's effects until the end of this turn. So that has a couple really good applications, you know. It'll stop you from getting OTK'd. Like, I've had times where opponent combos off and goes into access code, they pop my fusion, and they think they're gonna attack for game. But then when they pop my fusion, that triggers a Luber, so a Luber targets access code, summons, and then negates him. So his attack is back at the base 2300, and then I have a body on the field that protects me from direct attack. In the mirror matches, I was playing someone where they chained Ghost Ogre to an effect of Chloritis on my side of the field, and then they chained Branded Opening. And it was really funny because they popped my Chloritis, and then in the new chain, their Luber went to trigger, and then my Luber in graveyard triggered, targeted their Luber on field, summoned it onto the field, and then negated their Luber. So that was incredibly hilarious. I was like, wow, I gotta remember that interaction. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with it. Next, we're playing triple Despian Tragedy. My deck count is a little on the higher side for this, so I'm playing 3 because since my deck goes a little over 40, if I'm playing 2, there's less of a chance to see that in my opening hand, so I'm playing 3 just to kind of accommodate that. Obviously, really good card. If it's sent to the graveyard or banished by card effect, add 1 Despia monster from deck to your hand, except Tragedy. And its secondary effect is also super good. Banish it from your graveyard, and then set 1 branded spell or trap from your graveyard back onto the field. So if you're setting one of your quick plays, you're not going to be able to use that until next turn, but you can set your branded fusion or the Theater field spell, and then since those are spell speed 1, you can immediately activate those, so that's super awesome. You just can't use both effects the same turn. Then we're playing 1 Dramaturg and 1 Ad Libitum. I see a lot of people not play Dramaturg. I think he's really good. I think he's a recyclable 3K beater that you just keep bringing back over and over again. He's super good to use when going into cards like Guardian Chimera or anything else really that would have an on-summon effect, because you can use him to chain block, and his negate comes in handy a lot of times too. Ad libitum is definitely super cool because you just keep recycling your fusion monsters that get sent to the graveyard or banished, or if you need to in a pinch, you know, summon back one of your Despia monsters. So say you make Dragoon turn 1 and then they just kaiju or super poly him or something, Ad libitum will easily bring that Dragoon back. Now we have our Edge Imp package, or Fight for a package, I guess, whatever you want to call it. 2 Edge Imp chain, 3 Fight for a Patchwork, and then 2 poly. Before the structure deck, it was really cool because you could play all of these at 3 because the deck had more space. And the reason that I did that was because sometimes you could easily brick by, you know, drawing both copies of Edge of Chain or both copies of Poly. And then your Fight for Patchworks are useless because you have to be able to search both of them. So this is not ideal for me. I mean, I wish I could play them all at 3 just for consistency. But, I mean, beggars can't be choosers. The overall goal of what we're accomplishing with this deck is obviously a lot better, so it's still really cool. So these are the ratios you want to play these at because you still want room to be able to play hand traps or other stuff, or if you opt to play the DPE engine in it also, you know, you need to have the space for that. Then we're playing 2 Fallen of Albaz and the Light Hexo Fusion. Obviously Fallen of Albaz is for our fusion monsters that require him as material. It's for the branded fusion. And then the Light Hexo Fusion, this is what we use to go into our Dragoon. And this also comes up too just because it counts for 1 fusion material. So you can sometimes use it to make other things too, if you need to. I have been seeing some people play Dark Magician instead of this because they make Dragoon, and then since you use the 1 normal monster, you still get that 1 pop. So that's pretty cool. I might try that out. Then we'll go over the hand traps next. We're playing triple Crossout Designator. Now obviously this is not a hand trap, but the reason I'm showing this is because this affects what hand traps we're playing. We're basically playing this plus all the hand traps that would hurt us or stop our plays from going off. This is mainly going first deck. You want to establish your board. Now the hand traps that I am playing, I think they're still pretty good against other decks, but let's just go through it. So triple Ash Blossom, double Ghost Bell, sorry, double Effect Veiler, and then double Infinite Impermanence. So these are all the cards that will mainly stop you from doing your branded plays. Imperm, Veiler, Ash Blossom, those will all stop a Luber search. Ash will stop branded fusion. Imperm and Veiler will stop, and Ghost Bell will stop your Albion, you know, which lets you go into Dragoon. So you need to play Crossout Designator because a lot of times the way your hands will be, if that one thing gets stopped, then you pretty much have nothing else to do, and that's not a fun feeling to end on that, you know, a Luber plus 1 set back row. That's obviously going to be kind of embarrassing. No one wants to see that happen. We want our board to go through. The reason we're playing 3 Crossout Designator also is because, like I said, our deck is a little bit over 40, so playing that 3rd one, you know, if I was running a 40 card deck, I'd probably just run 2 Crossout because I wouldn't want to brick on it. But since the deck is a little bit more, we're running 3 to give us a better chance of seeing it in our opening hand. Then we'll go over our branded spells. We're playing triple branded fusion. That's obviously pretty standard. Triple branded opening. Double branded in red. And then a single copy of Despia Theater of the Branded. So, branded fusion. Obviously you want to max out on that because this is your card that lets you go into your bigger combos, lets you go into Dragoon. And then branded opening. This is our E-Telly for the deck. Fun fact, if you are able to, if you feel like it's not going to mess up any of your combos, always opt to play this card in standby phase, because what will happen is, let's say you're summoning a Luber. You summon him, his effect will trigger in the standby phase, and that automatically eliminates a couple cards that can be used against you. Effect Veiler, Droll and Lockbird, cards like that specified during the main phase. So if you're able to do this during the standby phase, even better, because then they can't stop cards like that. Branded in red, this is obviously a really good one. And it's searchable off of your Albion, you know, assuming you have the right hand, and on your end board you're able to fuse Albion and your Luber away to make a Masquerade. Then Albion's graveyard effect will trigger, and then you'll just add this card to your hand or set it to your field. So it's super good. Ghost Bell does hurt it, so that's why we're playing 2 copies of Ghost Bell to go let our cross out. Use this card to make your Guardian Chimera, or in a pinch situation, make a Chloritis to stop your opponent from OTKing you to stall until your next turn. So yeah, really good card. And then Despia, Theater of the Branded. Do not underestimate this card. This card is actually really freaking good. And kind of sucks that they printed it as a common. You know, no hate against people that play commons, but I feel like a card as good as this should at least deserve a super rare. But obviously it's your fusion, it's your field fusion spell. Its secondary effect also comes up super clutch. A lot of times I'll leave something out on the field, like one of my regular fairies, like a Luber, Dramaturg, out on the field to bait my opponent into attacking it, because then that triggers this effect, which says if a face-up non-fusion fairy monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, or is destroyed by battle, you can target 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So that is super good. That's another way to just keep bringing back, you know, your Dragoon, your Chloritis, your Mirror Jade. I mean, it comes in a clutch for sure. And then, lastly, we're playing just a couple other cards that help this deck. Triple copy of Super Polymerization. Again, same concept. This is a 44 card deck, so normally if it was 40 or 41, we'd probably just play 2 copies because we don't want to brick on it. But since the deck count is a little higher, we're playing the 3rd copy just to make sure we see this when we need to see it. And then we have the 1 copy of Foolish Burial. That's our backup in case we don't draw any, you know, decent starting cards. Send Tragedy to the grave, and then Tragedy will add most likely a Luber. That's probably what you go for. And then our 1 copy of Call. And this is still a really good card. If it was at 3, then we probably wouldn't be playing as many of those hand traps as we're playing, plus the cross out. But it's still worth it for me to run it at 1, so that's why I did that. Now we will go into our extra deck. We'll start with the monsters that list Fallen of Albaz as material. We're running 1 Titaniclad. This is more of a backup, like we're generally not gonna opt to go for him unless you have this weird situation where you need something with a really high attack to beat over something, because his effect says he gains attack equal to the combined original levels of the monsters used for its fusion summon times 100. So depending on what you use, you know, his attack will be like anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 thousand. So you can use that to beat over something that's too strong. Then we're playing 2 copies of Albion. The Branded Dragon, this is obviously the main one that we're going to opt for. This is what is going to let us go into our Dragoon. I think I forgot to mention it earlier, but you'll use Branded Fusion to send Fallen of Albaz plus the Light Exil, which is a light monster, to make Albion. Albion says Fallen of Albaz plus 1 light monster. And then Albion will activate to banish Fallen of Albaz, and then the light to make Dragoon. And the way it does that is that Fallen of Albaz is a dragon effect monster, and then the light counts for 1 other fusion material. Any fusion material, you know, just the other one that you're using has to be correct. So that's how we make the Dragoon. So this is mainly what that's for. And then his graveyard effect. There you go. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or set one branded spell trap directly from your deck. Pretty much, if it's used, if it's destroyed by battle, if it's sent, if it's banished, it's not going to trigger that effect. It has to end up in the graveyard, but pretty much if it ends up in the graveyard by any one of those ways I mentioned, then you get to add or set that branded spell trap. So when you're going turn 1, easiest way to do that is to just use your field spell or your polymerization to fuse him, and then whatever leftover Despia monster you have to make one more, Chloritis or Masquerade, and then his graveyard effect will trigger since he was sent to the graveyard this turn. And then we're playing the 1 copy of Rebellion and the 1 copy of Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. These are more cards that you can make using Branded Fusion and Fallen of Albaz. Sometimes you will have kind of bricky hands, so usually I always go for Albion, but if I need to make some kind of decent board rather than just 1 Dragoon, which is really easy to combo over, then I'll opt for Lubellion. It's 1 Dark Monster plus Fallen of Albaz, so you can use Tragedy and Fallen of Albaz, and then Tragedy will trigger to let you add a Luber, and then you have your normal summon and then your search. So if you go that route, you probably won't get to make Dragoon, but I think a few different monsters, like 2 Masquerades plus something else plus a set card, is a lot better than 1 Dragoon, because 1 Dragoon is really easy to combo over. And then Mirror Jade is obviously really good. And another reason we're running the 2nd copy of Albion is because Albion is the perfect target for him to send from your extra deck, so that you can banish 1 monster on the field, and then your Albion will trigger during the end phase, just giving you more follow-up play for next turn. So both of these cards are really good. I've seen people run, 2 Lubellion and 1 Mirror Jade, or 1 Lubellion, 2 Mirror Jade. This is pretty much the space that I have, so that's what I chose to run with. Next, since we're playing Super Poly, we have 2 Super Poly targets, Despia and Starving Venom. Both of these are pretty decent. Despia has the quick effect to put the Predapack counter on one of your opponent's monsters, and then as long as it has a Predapack counter, the activated effects are negated. So keep in mind that doesn't include those inherent effects, like Masquerade, making your opponent pay 600 for each activation and effect. That's not an activated effect, it's like a static effect. So Despia will not affect stuff like that, but it's still a really good card. And then Starving Venom, obviously really good. It can gain the attack of 1 special summon monster on the field, which can also help you beat over stuff. And then it has its graveyard effect. If this fusion summon card is destroyed, so that's either by battle or card effect, you can destroy all special summon monsters your opponent controls. Now that if it's sent, then its effect will not trigger. We have to pay attention to the wording. It says if it's destroyed, so that means destroyed by battle or destroyed by card effect. And that also reminds me about Mirror Jade's secondary effect. It's this fusion summon card in its owner's hand. If its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls during the end phase. So this is, Starving Venom's effect on crack ×2. So this just has to leave the field. So that's banished, destroyed, sent. The only way it will not trigger is if it gets shuffled back into the extra deck, because the card has to at least be somewhere in a known position for the effect to trigger. But if it's in the extra deck, it pretty much doesn't exist at all yet until it comes out, so the effect will not trigger. Then for our Despian fusions, we're playing the 1 copy of Chloritis and then 2 copies of Masquerade. Before the new support came out, I was playing triple Masquerade and then double Coritis, and it was super fun because it just gave me a ton of follow-up play. If I knew that the opponent didn't have any way to clear my board of my double Masquerade, then I would just really punish them and make the 3rd one. So they're paying 1800 per activation in effect. But this is obviously still really good. I think even 600 life points is really good, because your opponent will really have to think about their plays. Like, they can't just do whatever they want. You know, everything that they activate has a cost, and they have to calculate and see if they'll have enough to overcome that. And then Coritis' effect during the main phase, make the attack of everything except fusions 0. And just in case you didn't know, 2 monsters that both have 0 attack. If you use one of them to try and like crash into the other one to remove it, nothing will happen. Since they don't have any attack, there's no damage that's actually taking place for them to be destroyed. Coritis' secondary effect is super good. Same thing, if it leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, then it will bring out, it will e-tele out a Fallen of Albaz or 1 Despia monster from your deck. So you can summon out a Luber for free, or a Dramaturg, or Fallen of Albaz, whatever the current board state requires. And then Masquerade, if your opponent controls a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, or Link monster while this card is in the graveyard, quick effect, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. So when he comes back from the graveyard, he's no longer treated as a fusion summon monster, he's just a special summon monster. So you will not, keep charging, you won't get to keep charging your opponent that 600 life point cost each activation. That effect is no longer valid, but that doesn't mean that this card is bad. I mean, he's another body on the board. He still has 2500 attack, which is decent. You can use him as material, since he's going to get banished the next time he leaves the field. You can easily use him as a target for Guardian Chimera, so it's super good. Speaking of Guardian Chimera, I'm playing double copies of him. This card is nuts. Like, this is one of the cards that really takes this deck to the next level. Being able to replenish your hand and pop cards at the same time is insane. Like, you can have these really weird hands where you just draw only hand traps and a poly, and you can normal summon one of those, and as long as they have different names, you can summon this guy. And then you can, draw into most likely whatever card you are missing to start a combo. And then if you used polymerization and it's in your graveyard, then he can't even be targeted. So you can easily chain block with this guy. You can use any other effects, like Dramaturg is my favorite one. Like, I fused Dramaturg and ad libitum, and then one other monster to make this probably a Masquerade that's been summoned from the grave. So we go Guardian Chimera Chainlink 1, ad libitum Chainlink 2, and then Dramaturg Chainlink 3. So there's no way that they can stop him unless, you don't have Poly in the graveyard and they can target and use Veiler or Imperm. But then you can easily dodge that too. Like, if you fusion summon him using the field spell and you still have a branded in red in your hand, and then they go to target him to negate, then you can just easily use your branded in red and then still have his effect go through, and then the target is removed. So it's really, really good card. And he's 3300 attack, so that's another pretty big plus. And then we are playing the man, the legend himself, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, in a beautiful Starlight Rare. As soon as I saw this printed, or released, I knew that I had to get him even if I didn't pull him from a box, so I instantly swooped him up. I already knew months ago, I was like, I'm going to be playing this card in this deck. So he's super awesome. Earlier I was talking about the light hex sealed. If you're using that and Fallen of Albaz, you don't get to utilize his pop effect. but it's still a really good card. It's still worth playing. Still has a lot of presence, can't be targeted, can't be destroyed. Omni negate by discarding, and this deck goes so well with that because you can have a branded in red in hand, but then no Despia targets in your graveyard, and you can use his effect to discard like a Dramaturg or something, and then boom, now your branded in red is live because you have a target in your graveyard. So he's just a super good card, and he's like the final sealing like note of defeat for your opponent. Like, it's already hard enough to play through 2 Masquerade if you don't have the right cards, and then on top of that you have this guy out on the board too, so it's super good. And then for the links, we're playing 1 copy of Predaplant, Verte Anaconda. This is more of a backup, but it's still really good to have. This card, sending Branded Fusion, will still let you end on a Mirror Jade, because you'll send, you can use Fallen of Albaz and this to make Mirror Jade. And then lastly, we're playing Dark, also in a beautiful Starlight Rare. Unfortunately, I'm kind of considering cutting him for any of the Link ones, like Link Aribo or Relinquished Anima, because sometimes you have those really weird hands where you have a Tragedy branded in red, and then you have no way to make any of your fusions. So you can make a Link 1, you can make either Anima or Link Aribo using Tragedy, and then that gives you the chance to at least make something, because now you have a target in the graveyard. But I have a beautiful Starlight, so at the moment I'm just playing with that. I mean, this card is still really good. Steal your opponent's DPE, steal your opponent's Dragoon, or any other target they might need to combo off. So it's super good. Now we'll go over our side deck. For the back row hate, everyone hates a good back row deck. We have our back row removal, 1 Feather Duster and 2 copies of Twisters. And Twisters is really good also just because you can discard some good stuff, which makes more cards live, like Branded Red. Then we're playing triple copy of Forbidden Droplet. If we know we're gonna go second and we're gonna have to try and beat over something, this is a very necessary card. It's also really good in so many applications, like you can activate a spell card and then chain Droplet and send the spell card as cost. That's a really good application. And then also, like say you normal summon your Luber, and then they go to Imperm or Veiler it, and you don't have any cross out in hand to banish that. You can just chain your Forbidden Droplet and send Luber as cost, so he'll dodge that negate. That's really good too. Then we're playing triple copy of Droll and Lockbird. This is obviously a really good card. There's so many decks right now that search multiple times. I mean, I'm playing a deck that, that is able to search multiple times, and if someone plays Droll against me, it's gonna hurt really bad. So it's in the side deck because I don't know if that's always gonna come up, and I need to see first if that's something that someone's gonna use against me. If it is, then I'll definitely side it in. That way, when they go to use it the next time, I'll chain cross out. Then we're playing triple copies of Artifact Lancia. I'm not super concerned about this being used against me. It's more so for my opponents. I mean, I know this card can still, stop Branded in Red, stop Albion, but I'm not really concerned about that card being used against me because I feel like there's still other things you can do. And then lastly, we're playing triple copies of Nibiru. I really like this also in my main deck. I just unfortunately think that it won't always have applications in your main deck, so I'd rather play it in my side. Like, people are pretty used to this card by now, so they're already, playing around it. And then there's some decks that it's just really bad against, so I'm playing it in the side deck. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that deck profile. I've been having a lot of fun playing this deck. I haven't really had the chance to go to any kind of tournaments yet, but I've been doing a lot of online playtesting and just trying out a lot of different things. Originally, I tried to get around playing cards like Super Poly or Crossout, because with this deck, technically you're able to play engines like the DPE engine, and also like you're able to play that in Dragoon. But when you do play those things, there is not really much that you have to stop your opponents from their play. So you have to rely on going first, and then still, even if you do go first, if you get stopped by one card, then your whole combo is potentially gone. So I did a lot of testing, and I think this is a very solid build. Go ahead and give me your guys' opinion. I'm also open to constructive criticism. You know, if you have a question like, why aren't you playing this card? You know, I'd love to have that discussion with you. And hopefully soon we'll be having some test play videos coming. All right, you guys have a good one. Thanks for watching.